Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're going to continue our Inventors We Love series. Is that what we called it?
Something like
Amazing
that.
engineers.
Amazing engineers. Basically, people that are notable.
Fantastic physicists.
Wow, you're really into the rhyming.
Yeah.
People that we know made stuff that we like and or respect.
All right. Well, today, Luke, since you came up with this one, I'm going to let you say what we're talking about.
Okay, so in my defense, James, I thought this guy was way more impressive than he actually is. He is very impressive, way more impressive than you or I.
Okay.
Because of what he's done.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about James Dyson.
The only good thing about James Dyson is his first name, for sure.
Sir James Dyson? Sir?
Sir isn't a name.
Okay, okay.
Isn't it a title or something?
It is. But we're going to talk about James Dyson. Whenever I thought of him, I just assumed that he was like this super prolific inventor that did tons of stuff over in the UK, and all we know about is vacuums. In reality, he's really only done vacuums.
I really should have stopped this one before it got any further.
We should have picked somebody else.
Yeah. So a warning, we're going to get started in like 5 seconds, but if you want to just stop listening right now and go back and listen to a different episode.
Like the Elon
episode, one,
that was a
you
good
might
one.
want to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So let me give you a little background on the $4.4 billion man.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Home appliance inventor who built a better bagless vacuum before turning his attentions to hair dryers and fans and now batteries.
Batteries?
Yeah, so he's looking to make electric cars now.
Ooh.
I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Interesting.
But yeah, it took a ton of time for him to figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
forever.
From what I understand, I mean, when he started doing this, he had like zero backing because of the bag industry. It's like the mafia when I learned about it.
Yeah, I have that in here somewhere where it's like apparently dust bags or whatever you call them for vacuum cleaners is a big industry in the UK.
Yeah.
Like that was big money.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, it was the only. I mean, prior to bagless, I mean, it was the only thing, and they probably employ. I mean, it's basically the inkjet of, like they sell you the vacuum relatively inexpensively, but then you rely on these bags for the rest of your life.
He turned that model just all upside down.
He did. Like when
I just broke a TV.
So I honestly think that bags for vacuums back then were the inkjet model. So you sell it relatively cheap, and then you just give them. They rely on you forever, and that's why when he started, nobody wanted to back him because of this bag industry that was out there. They had a corner on the market, and he was intruding on it.
Well, at least the bag mafia is interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, actually.
So he grew up in England. We already said that this is a UK-based company. He went to school for 1 year at the Byam Shaw School of Art, and then he quit doing that.
Yeah.
And he went and studied furniture and interior design, which apparently is something.
You can definitely tell that he has that. If you look at the products he makes, they're all very, artsy fartsy.
They are artsy fartsy is the term. It is. But he went to the Royal College of Art for about 5 years for that.
Okay.
And fun fact about the Royal. See, this is how much I hated him. Was that I had to find more stuff about the things he did or places he went.
I got you.
The Royal College of Art was ranked first in art and design, in the art and design subject area in 2017.
Worldwide or just in the UK?
I think worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it is royal after all.
I mean, you put royal in front of anything and it's good.
Yeah. So before we get into the vacuum, his first invention was the ball barrow.
Yeah.
Which barely is an invention. So he took a wheelbarrow, and instead of having a wheel on it, he stuck a ball on the front of it.
Say that word again.
Wheelbarrow. B-A-R-R-O-W. It's not a barrel.
I always say wheelbarrow. Is that incorrect?
It's not a barrel. It's a barrow.
Wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Is the right...
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
This is how you spell it.
I'm 42 years old, and I've been saying wheelbarrow my entire life. Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
Wow.
You grew up in the sticks, we'll say.
I did.
But he also stuck with this ball idea, inventing the trolley ball, which was a trolley that launched boats using a ball. And then he designed the wheelboat, which could travel 40 miles per hour on both land and sea.
I saw that. That was an interesting one.
Which is basically the Just Ducky tours that we have around here.
It is.
Have you ever done that?
Tours. No, I haven't, but I've seen people on them. It looks like fun.
No, I mean, it's fine, I guess.
So there goes our Just Ducky sponsorship.
Yeah. I keep shooting us in the foot.
You do. You definitely do.
So at least he stuck with that ball idea because he stuffed one of those on a vacuum cleaner too, right?
Yeah, and I've used one. I don't own one, but I've used one of those. And it's not as easy to steer as they claim it is. Like they act like it's like the sports car of vacuums that can turn on a dime. And it's not all that great.
All right. Well, let's start talking about the vacuum cleaner a little bit.
The vacuum cleaner itself.
Yeah, but before we do, let me tell you another thing I hate about this is that the word vacuum is impossible to spell. Impossible.
How do you spell vacuum?
V-A-C-U-U-M.
Oh,
Who uses two U's? It's not a double U, it's double U's. No good.
You mean W, the letter W?
Yeah. You can't use two U's in a row. That just throws me off every time.
You can't?
Well, you can, obviously, but I don't. I'm always like V-A-C-C-U-M. Nope, autocorrect.
Really?
Yeah, I can't spell that
So
word.
I'm the worst speller ever, so I just probably never noticed that there were two U's.
That could be. All right, tell me a little bit about this vacuum cleaner.
So he got this idea, apparently, from the way sawmills would collect dust particles. And they would have these, and you've probably seen them outside of not just sawmills, but any place where there's a lot of particulate in the air. They have these super large silos, and they funnel down at the bottom. They throw the air in super fast, and basically it spins, and the particulate drops out of the vortex, and they go into bags.
Okay.
So his
because
idea...
picking up sawdust is the worst.
It is.
Yeah.
And he got the idea by seeing this apparently somewhere over in the UK or wherever he lived, and thought if we could just make this smaller, you could do that exact same thing on a small scale. And so that's where the idea came from. And so what it uses is something called cyclonic separation.
See, that sounds engineering right there.
It does. And I actually have some experience with cyclonic separation.
You're really worldly, you know? You impress me all the time. Tell me about your experience with cyclonic separation.
I can't say the name of the company, but I used to do analysis
it's one of those.
Well, no,
That's fine.
I used to work for a company called Blue Ridge Numerics, and I was an analyst.
You were.
And until we figured out I was colorblind.
You are.
And I was looking at all the color plots incorrectly. And they moved me over to marketing. But before that happened, I was working for a vacuum company, doing some contract work for them through this analysis company. And they basically were like, hey, we want to do some cyclonic separation. They've been doing it, but they were redesigning the cones, and could we do it? And in reality, analyzing cyclonic separation is incredibly difficult, creating that vortex. So the challenge was that in the end we couldn't do it. We could give them some predictive stuff, but basically it takes that air on the way in. Sometimes they actually do two of these to actually magnify it, but what happens is the particles, because they weigh more than the air, they actually smash against the sidewalls of the cone.
Oh.
And when they hit the sidewall of that cone, basically, it's almost like a static that holds them on that wall, and then the air just proceeds to smash those along the outside edge, and then they coil down, because the air typically goes up in a cyclonic separation. So it comes in the top, it cycles down, and ultimately it goes back up. But during that process, the air typically exits the top. It does not exit the bottom. Just the particles exit out the bottom. So so that's the kind of the physics behind it. And what he did with his cyclonic separation was he did multiple cyclones. So he kind of had them all pointing at like a center point if you look at the vacuums. And basically they were more efficient. You could separate smaller particles by doing this. The faster the flow, the smaller the particles. So that's why even with a filter, when you open up one of these bagless vacuums, you still get some particulate, because even the best cyclonic separation still doesn't get certain size particles that stay in the air suspended. So that's some of the engineering behind it.
You just laid some science down on our listeners.
I did, and that's I'm done for today. I'm going to pull a George Costanzo, and I'm going to leave the meeting right now.
On a high note.
On a high note.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about old James here a little bit. Over a 5-year period, I thought this was unbelievable. He created 5,100 plus prototypes before coming up with the G-Force cleaner in 1983. It's a terrible name. And he's clearly a terrible designer if it took him 5,000 tries.
Yeah, quick question about that. Do you think that, so this was back when? This was back in the, like the 80s,
and 70s, late 80s, early 70s.
Do you think he was using some kind of simulation, or you think this was all physical prototyping?
I think this was all physical prototyping.
He probably had no cash, too, because he was just starting.
Right, he was poor. He was actually living off of his wife, who was a teacher, her salary as part of, like, their living. So
well, that was nice of her.
That was nice of her. I bet she's probably pretty happy now.
Yeah, heck yeah. 4.4 billion.
That vacuum cleaner money.
What is it? Liras over there? What are they? Euros. That's
they don't use euros. They use pounds.
Pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not part of the. Oh, we'll get into that. They're not part of the.
Okay.
The union. Anyways, let's see here. Dust bags are a big industry. We talked about that. They were ousting him. Nobody wanted to be his friend.
So what I like about this is he couldn't get anybody to actually build his stuff
in the UK.
So he just started his own company in '93.
Yeah, so he launched in Japan, and then he was like, fine, I'm just building my own manufacturing in like 93. He founded Dyson in 91. He set up the manufacturing in 93 just to build his stuff. Like, how do you get that big of a loan? Yeah. I don't understand that.
Well, my guess is he used all of the proceeds from his sales in Japan.
But he sold like very, very few, like only a couple thousand, I think.
Maybe he had some real forward-thinking investors.
That could be. Maybe he had a good name in the vacuum cleaner industry.
Perhaps.
As a troublemaker. Anyways, before we go on any more about this amazing vacuum cleaner, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
Oh, I love when we take words from our sponsors. Especially when we have them.
Especially when we have them, which we do not. It turns out when you just badmouth Dyson for a half hour, they do not give you any cash. Hoover might have, though. Or Dirt Devil.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. We do have 2 shout-outs, though, which is pretty cool. So Fred on SoundCloud, which was weird, actually had some comments. One, he said it's nice. I think he was being nice.
I think he was sarcastic.
I wasn't certain, actually. He was like, it's cool that we're just like chilling out around a coffee table with some notes, like listening, you know? And I'm like, well, I think that's cool, or maybe we're just not very well prepared, he's saying. I don't know. But he also asked some watches about questions about can quartz watches be analog as well, which they can. But
they can? Yeah. I did not know that.
I had to Google it, so thanks a lot, Fred. Another shout out for Nicole from Singapore. She had
Singapore?
Yeah, we're a worldwide, very famous.
Wow, the
group.
intranet's really kind of goes everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It turns out. So Nicole from Singapore had all sorts of great topic ideas, like the SOAR systems and the first SOARs and things like that.
Okay.
So we're gonna hit up some of her ideas coming up here in the future. And she sent her address to send stickers to, which I'm going to, but they will be on the slow boat to Singapore. So
one of our coworkers actually is from Singapore. Maybe we could like have him take it with him when he goes and visits.
Oh, that might be faster,
we could
actually.
Save money.
Or send it back with his mom or something.
Or we could do that where the person is getting so she'll get a bill when it gets delivered. It says you owe us $14.
You're now a sponsor on.
Thank you, Nicole, for that. That's awesome.
So any of you who want to say you subscribe, write in with some ideas, tell us what a great job we're doing, tell us what a bad job we're doing, and you want some Unprofessional Engineering stickers, just email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com and we will hook you up.
For sure.
For sure. All right. Let's get back to this amazing vacuum cleaner.
You know what? I would say the engineering of this vacuum cleaner is impressive to me. Do we want to talk about some of the legal things that happened with this, potentially?
Well, first, let me just tell you that, like, a couple more things.
Okay.
Just to dog on a little more. And dog on the whole UK, actually. In 2005, he got his big break where he broke into the UK market.
Okay.
Well, I guess a little before then, because the people there decided they're too lazy to change their dust bags after all. So in 2005, Dyson became the market leader then in the U.S., not by value, or not by number of vacuums sold, but by value, because they cost a small fortune, and therefore, you sell like 2 of them and you're the leader.
You are not kidding, they're expensive.
They added the ball in 2005 to improve steerability. And then this is kind of cool because this is unprofessional engineering and it ties into something we just talked about. In 2014, they introduced the 360i. Did you see that?
It's EYE, like
EYE. Yeah, it's a robotic vacuum cleaner that has scanning and mapping for navigation, cyclonic dust separation, of course, tank treads for traction, and interfaces with iOS and Android.
So this is like his version of the Roomba.
Yeah, it's his fancy robot vacuum.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
All right, you want to talk about the law?
Yeah, so...
breaking the law.
Yes.
Breaking the law.
So apparently the bag mafia that kind of ruled the vacuuming world. So, okay, first of all, before I do that, did you ever have a bagged vacuum with a dust bag?
I still have one, yes.
How often do you change? You probably haven't changed it in 6 years.
I don't use that one, to be fair. It just sits there and gathers dust for my other vacuum to clean.
Perfect. So,
but yeah, I never go.
I don't understand why people were resistant. I get that there was this industry of making bags and selling bags, but nobody. The only reason I would ever change the bag in my vacuum whenever we had a bag vacuum is whenever like dust was pouring out of it. And you actually had to do it. And even then, I would just shake it out and put it back on.
Okay.
And it would make a huge mess.
That would be disgusting.
So,
yes.
Yeah, because all the stuff that's in a vacuum, it's gross.
Ugh, yeah.
But
Dried
the interesting thing was these companies that were fighting him, they ended up, they said they didn't steal it directly. They said theirs was different. But basically, Hoover, he sued Hoover for patent infringement and whatnot for the cyclonic separation. And they actually had to pay him $4 million.
I felt like that's not that much.
Considering the potential, and they have their own cyclonic separation they're doing now anyways. They must be doing it slightly different or however they're doing it. But they do have bagless vacuums that look and act very similar. But they had to pay a ton of money.
I'd take it.
I mean, I would if I had
I would
to.
retire if I had $4 million cash.
But I would too, but I think it's interesting that the corporations that were poo-pooing him for doing this stole his idea.
Yeah.
So I like him a little bit for that, because he was kind of like fighting the man kind of thing. I know we've been not super nice to him, but the fact that he was the underdog...
Let me tell you more about why I don't like him.
Oh.
Are you done with legal schmiegel?
I am done with the legal schmiegel.
Okay. Let me tell you about Dyson, the company, being a failure as well.
Oh, wow.
It's not really, but I'm just being angry. In 2000, they made the Contra Rotator, which was a washing machine with 2 rotating drums.
Okay.
And it totally bombed. And it had obnoxious colors like all of the Dyson vacuums.
Yeah, they're all obnoxious
and it
colors.
bombed and failed. So that's fine. Way to make a failure there. In 2002, he wasted everyone's time making it look like water flows upward in an M.C. Escher style water sculpture.
Okay.
And it was featured in some garden show in 2003. Okay. So that sounds like a total waste.
Yeah.
And then this is my least favorite. If the vacuum cleaners aren't bad enough, in 2006, he launches the disgusting Dyson Airblade. Oh, the hand dryer that like squeegees your hand with air, like in public bathrooms. And then, it's supposed to save on energy and all that. But it mostly just blows germs around and is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, because I've used, number one, to put your hands in there and pull them out without touching where other people's hands are, it's pretty difficult to do.
Yep.
And then water goes everywhere.
No, it's so gross.
And you got to figure the speed at which that air is blowing that water down, that water is basically turning into like microscopic particles that are just flying everywhere.
It's so gross.
It's disgusting.
It is.
And it gets all moldy in the bottom of the tray.
Gosh. Well, thanks for that, Mr. Dyson.
Yeah, I don't like the air blade.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
Well, everything they do is.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how he's worth so much.
Granted, you're not buying paper towels and they use less energy.
I get it.
But it's
gross.
I don't like them at all either.
Yeah, it's cost and grossness is way up there.
Yeah.
He's not all bad. He really isn't. He set up the James Dyson Foundation in 2002.
That's nice of him.
It was, and it supports design and engineering education, so we should be cool with that, right? Maybe they would found or donate to us as well. The foundation donated £8 million in 2014 to Cambridge to build a new 4-story building supporting research. In 2015, they pledged £12 million. I figure those must have been good years for vacuum sales or something. So in 15, they pledged £12 million to Imperial College London to buy a post office building. And it will open the Dyson School of Engineering in that building.
Interesting.
So that's kind of neat. I thought maybe we could start Unprofessional School of Engineering somewhere.
Ooh.
The Unprofessional Engineering School of Engineering.
I don't know if you'd want to get a degree from that school.
Maybe the School of Podcasting.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
A couple other things I'd like to point out that he's made that I actually do like. So I hate the air blade.
It's gross.
It's gross.
I don't know if I've said that enough.
Yeah. But he created this bladeless fan called an air multiplier.
Okay.
So if you've seen it, it basically looks like a fan without any blades in the center, and it basically, pulls air through. He does some kind of crazy black magic on the inside of this thing, and it's a bladeless fan. Really interesting. Again, the price is redonkulous.
Okay.
I mean, it is so stupid. I can go to Walmart and get a fan for $30.
But it has blades.
It has blades, and it talks about like safety. It's like, who just like sticks their hand in, and they got cages, but regardless. Right. So it's a pretty interesting idea, and he's taken this idea of this air multiplier and he's added mist to it, so it could be a cooling fan. There's some thermal stuff that happens. It can actually be a heater. Dehumidifier. They have ways to separate allergens with this thing. So it's a really interesting design, but it's like, who has $700 for a fan?
Yeah, not this guy.
It's crazy.
We will soon, once our sponsorships start rolling in.
Or, well, I doubt Dyson would
or
sponsor
buy a
us.
$15 fan at Walmart.
Yeah, because it kind of does. I think it's interesting when you take a company like Dyson and a guy like James Dyson, and he basically says, I'm going to make something that already exists. I'm going to make it fancy, shiny colors like orange and silver and just charge people
so much.
Like 10 times the amount of money.
Yeah.
And then you take something like a fan. He reinvented the fan.
Is the fan a funny color too?
It is. It's it has like this like neon blue rim on it, and so it's interesting, but I feel like it's a very kind of small market of people that are going to buy these things.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to do a guessing game with you.
I
but before we
love
do,
guessing
I
games.
want to take a break for this week's Terrible Engineering.
Oh, and I got
I feel like it
for
should
you.
be Luke's Terrible Engineering or something, because it's
Okay.
always going to be you, because
Okay.
you're much more negative than I am.
Well, no.
Yeah.
What? Shut your mouth.
And if you believe that, okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yeah,
I see a picture of it. That does look terrible.
Yeah, so I've seen these things. So there's a few pages I follow on Facebook, and every now and then you'll see these little videos or pictures show up, and they show off these kind of stupid inventions.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a joke whenever I saw it. And then I did a little bit of research. This is called the Hush Me. It's the world's first voice mask smartphone. So basically, this is a legit thing. If you think of like a hipster Bane, Bane had that thing over his mouth that was like cool looking and tough.
Yeah.
Imagine this, but like for a hipster. So it's white, and it's just like, it's this thing that goes under your nose, covers your mouth, wraps around the back of your head. I'm sure it's super comfortable. Not.
That was a sweet 90s throwback.
Exactly.
Well done.
Or you look like remember Geordie LaForge on Star Trek, the guy that had the hairband that covered his eyes so he could see. Imagine that, but just like covering your mouth so people can't see your mouth.
Okay.
So what this thing does is it basically captures all the sound coming out of your mouth, sends it to your iPhone, Bluetooth, wired, whatever it is, and you can have conversations without people hearing what you're saying. And it's got to be the stupidest thing I ever heard. So I checked Kickstarter yesterday, and they have 248 backers. I'm going to call those people they've swindled into pledging $71,000 for this.
Wow.
So basically the moral of this story is if you have a stupid idea,
go on Kickstarter.
put it on Kickstarter. You're going to get 70 grand. You'll do something, and then, because it is the most ridiculous looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right. I
So
think
the Hush Me.
the Hush Me wins Luke's terrible engineering.
And I'm fairly certain you're one of the backers. I feel like you were on board with this when you saw it.
I am not. All right. Do you want to play a guessing game, Luke?
Yes, I love guessing games. Bring it on.
How much per week do you think Dyson is spending on R&D this year?
Per week?
In dollars.
Dollars. $7 million.
$9.1 million per week.
I was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
That was
7
really
million
good.
pounds. Yeah.
Pow.
Maybe that's what
That's
you
what
were thinking.
I meant. I was doing the math in my head from pounds to dollars.
Let's see. They're the biggest investor in robotics and AI in the UK. That's pretty cool.
That kind of makes sense.
It does, especially with their eye.
Yeah, yep.
How many engineers / scientists do they employ?
Ooh, I'm going to say 14,000.
3,500.
Okay, that was a James.
That was
Yes. That was a James guess I had there. Sorry about that.
That is. Let's see. They're part of over 40 university research programs. And, oh yeah, just September.
I thought this is guessing game. Why are you just saying
Well, you guessed two.
Okay.
And you were off on both,
Okay.
so. Just in September, these are kind of fun facts, I
Okay.
guess. In September, they announced that they're going to produce an electric car, and they're aiming to launch it in 2020. So that's some pretty fast development right there.
Yeah.
And old Jimmy D,
Yep.
Jimmy D, he dumped 2 billion pounds of his own money into this idea.
Yeah.
So hopefully for him, it's a success.
Yeah, I think that electric car industry is going to be interesting because our sponsor from last week, we'll say, Elon.
Yeah, Elon.
He's definitely kind of cornered the market, I think.
I don't know if that's true.
Well,
I think that's a total lie.
well, not a lot. I feel like every other major automotive manufacturer has done a poor job with their electric cars. They're ugly.
Well, I agree with that.
The range is short.
Why is it that every electric car needs to look ridiculous, according to Ford or GM or Toyota or whoever?
Give me a regular looking car and just make it electric. They always
Yeah.
put like crazy fender flares on it,
Yeah.
or the back end looks weird. But so I feel like any competition that comes from outside of the major automotive manufacturers is going to really help this electric car thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually think that James Dyson getting in this electric car thing is going to be a good thing for everybody.
All right. I hope it is awesome colors like his vacuum cleaners.
Cars, I don't mind being obnoxious colors.
Okay.
I'm cool with an orange or a neon blue car, but a vacuum?
Okay. So do you want to talk just for a few minutes before we leave everyone for the week about the prices and some of the options you have available for these vacuum cleaners?
Before we do that, we can. But before we do that, I have a short story about my own personal experience with this.
I hope it's awesome.
So I had 2 Labrador Retrievers, which, if you know, these dogs basically shed Afghans every day.
Right.
Like, it's a ridiculous amount of hair. So Dyson comes out years ago with this vacuum called the Animal.
The Animal.
It was specifically designed for pet hair and picking up pet hair. Whatever that means, I don't know what specifically designed it to do that, but that was the marketing scheme that I fell for. And we buy this vacuum, no kidding, and I can't believe I'm admitting this, it was a $700 vacuum. It was like $699.
I need a raise.
It was like a $699 vacuum, and I was like, you know what? I've gone through vacuums. They don't pick up the hair. So we buy this vacuum from Best Buy, bring it home. It's basically does the same thing that the cheap vacuum
Picks up no hair.
It picks up hair a little bit better. It's a little bit stronger because it's my first bagless cyclonic vacuum, so it was a little bit better. But literally, I feel like this thing was engineered purposely that after the 1-year warranty expires, I feel like they made a part that said, you know what, let's use this thing for 13 months and it's going to break. So literally,
that's good designing right there.
13 months after I owned it, the vacuum breaks. I call Best Buy, I try to get a hold of Dyson, I end up getting the runaround, and I had a $700 vacuum that only lasted 1 year. And my dog hair just totally decimated it.
That hurts.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the one you're talking about. The V6 Fluffy Pro Animal for hardwood floors is on sale right now for just $350.
Their prices have come down as he's done a
down
different
from
variety.
$550,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
There's also the V7 Car and Boat, which is a handheld vacuum, just like a little dustbuster thing.
$400?
It's only $240.
Okay.
But the small ball multi-floor is just $400. This is reasonable. The good ones are all $600 plus.
Yeah,
Dollars. I don't know. Obviously not the good ones. The ones that'll last 13 months will all cost you $600 or more dollars. The robot, the 360i that we talked about, 1,000 smackers. $1,000 for this thing roaming around doing things.
We're doing it wrong.
Clearly. And my favorite, they have one that I really like, which is another handheld one that looks exactly like the car and boat.
Okay.
Is called the V6 Baby and Child. So I can only assume you're supposed to vacuum up your infants because
baby and child.
Much like James Dyson, babies are the worst. So.
That's weird that you would name it baby and child. Maybe it's quiet where they're sleep. I'm
thinking that it's like portable and you can clean up around your messy, stupid kids or something. I don't know.
Oh, kids are great, James.
Kids are the best.
Interesting about the vacuums, though. They definitely weigh like 1,000 pounds. Do you have a Dyson?
Oh, do they? No, I don't have a Dyson.
They are the heaviest thing you could ever imagine.
Wow.
And so, wrapping up this whole expensive vacuum story, and I think we're just about done with today's podcast.
I hope.
Amazon, I found this Hoover Cyclonic Action bagless, $189. Best vacuum I've ever owned in my entire life.
Paying off that $4 million debt they had.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think we should please call this one over.
This ended up being better than I thought.
Well, that's because we're charming.
So hopefully the people that you told to stop listening at the beginning stuck around, because this ended up being better than I thought.
You know it's going to get more listens than Elon did.
For sure.
All right. Until next week.
See ya.